والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Now, this session I think is important. I'm sorry that we missed it in our sequence, but it talks about personal finance, especially, and then extended to infrastructure contract. The issue of personal finance has been since the late 80s has been a hot issue in Islamic banks, especially at that time. They were still at the beginning, and many of them could not handle the issue of how do we provide personal finance for those who want it, and there are conditions that may make buying and selling commodities, even though in a financial way, difficult. Or maybe the customer himself wants cash and doesn't want any other thing because he wants to use it for some other reason that we don't know what it is. Which is presumably supposed not to be done by Islamic banks, because personal finance should go to to friends and family members and people who know you very well. They can help in personal finance. So making personal finance as a commercial way to earn money, and it will cost also some cost for the beneficiary of it, is something kind of odd for the Islamic thinking. That's not the way the Islamic thinking goes around. Islamic thinking considers personal finance a personal issue based on personal relations. And usually, when I am asked in my training and my courses, who can give you then loan without any benefit from it? Well, of course, it's your mother, because your mother loves you without any condition. So she's willing to give you a loan without any condition or any earning. And because really personal finance should be based on personal relations and personal consideration and personal love also. So if not your mother, probably your wife or your girlfriend may give you a personal loan. But to make it commercial is kind of odd. Unfortunately, the capitalist system made it commercial. So Islamic banks wanted to go step by step, imitating or getting the customers, same customers of conventional banks, interest-based banks. So they want also to offer personal finance. In my opinion, there are alternatives, yes, for personal finance that are consistent with Sharia, instead of going into ways that are really tricks and violations of the Sharia. Basically, what some Islamic banks practiced from the early 90s or even late 80s is what is called Aina contract. And the Aina is simply an interest-based really contract, but it is hidden in the name of buying a commodity from the customer for cash and selling it to the customer on credit. So, uh, as the Arabic song says, that we spend the night drinking the beautiful breeze of the city of Damascus, and in fact, there was nothing to be intoxicated with, and and there was no liquor anyway, because we were drinking only the breathe. So this is the way uh, that Aina is. Buy a commodity is formal only. You are not really buying it. It is tied with the consideration that you will sell it again to the customer, but buying it for cash, selling it again to the same customer on credit for a larger amount. The difference is only an interest really on the amount of cash that you pay now. So that is not, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited this practice. Apparently, it was practiced by some people at his time, and he said this is not permissible. Similarly, they invented another transaction which they call tawarruq. So these two transactions, tawarruq and Ina. Tawarruq is exactly similar to that, but using the formal regulated markets. For instance, in Malaysia, buying palm oil from the regulated market of palm oil, uh, buying it for cash, selling it to the customer on credit. This is what the Islamic Bank does. Uh, for a higher amount, and of course the customer will sell it for cash in the same market, and usually of course with the same broker or with prior arrangement, that the idea is to get cash, and buy and sell is only a formality to make it appear like Sharia compliant. But really, the OIC Fiqh Academy, that is Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami al-Dawli, which is part of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation that has 57 member countries. It is the second to the United Nations in its size and in its population. uh, Decreed that Fiqh Academy decreed that this practice is pure riba. There is no difference between it and riba. Is that only this formality does not make it not riba. So we will look at some alternatives then for this practice. Okay. Of course, we realize there may be some needs sometimes for cash by individuals, by corporations, by even Islamic banks. I know a case of an Islamic bank, for instance. Suddenly, the central bank in that country increased the reserve requirement that are required by all banks, and the Islamic Bank didn't have adequate cash to put it in the central bank at that moment because of this sudden increase. So when they asked me, I told them, well, listen, any attempt you do it other than by try to taking loan from another bank or anything is riba based, because it was the only Islamic bank in that country at that time. It is riba, and I do not accept it, do not approve of it. Find some other way, like, for instance, go to some of your big shareholders and ask them to please make a deposit with us immediately, because within 24 hours we need to increase our reserve requirement. And they did that, and they were saved really by and fulfilling the condition of the central bank. So the idea, we when we think of alternatives, we find alternatives. Yes, there are real, genuine need by individuals, by corporations, by Islamic banks, and by governments for cash sometimes, and you can think of examples for all these four cases, but we need to be creative in finding some other ways that do not make us fall into the riba, whether in a plain term by borrowing on riba based, or by hidden riba, which is riba anyway, even if it is hidden under the name of tawarruq or under the name of aina. Both are pure riba. So let's go on and try to see what is. There is another practice by the some Islamic banks, unfortunately, especially in Malaysia. They call it al-rahnu. Al-rahnu is an interesting practice that they claim the name of it is loan without interest. Okay, loan fine without interest. A customer would come to the bank in an Islamic bank in Malaysia and ask for a loan without interest. They'll ask it. They'll ask the customer for some collateral, and we need collateral that is valuable but also small in size to fit within the safety box that we have in the bank. You know, all banks have some safety boxes, and these safety boxes are usually rented for about $10 really. I had good account with Citibank, so they gave me as a privilege a free safety box, which we used to put some documents in it that we want them to be safe. So anyway, uh, safety boxes are usually rented for about $10-20 maximum for the whole year. So now in this practice, you should use, Mr. Customer, you should use as collateral something valuable, but also small to fit in a safety box. But the rent of this safety box is 10% of the amount of the loan that you are getting. Is not $10. If you are borrowing, say, $10,000, then the rent for it will be $1,000. Well, obviously, the difference is riba. No doubt about that. More than that, there is a direct violation of an article in the law. Where does the Islamic law come from? It comes from the verses of the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in one of the articles in that law, a saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Do not combine together two contracts, to sale contract." And he meant from that really to avoid that you may give a privilege. Sorry, not to sale contract. Do not combine together a loan contract with a sale contract. So this article in the law, this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prohibits combining together a sale with a loan only for the suspicion. It may not be reality, but it may happen that you favor in the price of the sale the loan by really hiding an interest for the loan in the price of the sale. So if you are giving the loan and you are also the seller, you expand the price of the sale. The normal price would be 10 and you say the price is 20. The difference 10 is an interest for the loan. And if you are a buyer from the borrower, so again, combining them, you may get that sale for a cheaper price, and the price between the cheap price you got and the normal sale would be, or normal price would be, really the riba for the loan. So the Prophet ﷺ prevented putting together sale and loan. And here there is, in this practice that has been practiced for a long time, I heard recently that they stopped doing this in Malaysia. There is a violation of the text of the law, because the law, the hadith says that you shouldn't combine them, even if in an innocent way, still should not be combined. But how about when it is really hiding a price of the sale, hiding an interest of the loan within the price of the sale? And notice, ijara of a safety box is a sale contract, because what is ijara? We defined it as sale of usufruct. So we are selling the usufruct for a price, which is the amount of rent. Uh, Blowing this amount to include interest for the loan, definitely that is haram twice, not only haram one time. Haram because of violating the text of combining a sale and a loan, and haram for including interest in the amount of the rent. So let's talk about the alternatives. Uh, One of the alternative here, we will discuss these four alternatives, and they are really nice kind of alternatives. Okay, ijara. Sorry, what happened? Yeah, here. Uh, ijara. Uh, Ijara is a way really of making it makes life easy, and it can be applied in many cases. For instance, we've applied that in some countries. I personally was supervising that, and I know it also exists in other banks. In some countries, the landlords ask for renting, when they rent their apartments, they ask for 1 full year, and many times in addition to the full year, in advance, they ask for a deposit. Now, a normal user of this kind of apartment may not be able to pay the full year in advance. So the Islamic bank may buy that usufruct for the year and sell the usufruct to the customer, exactly as we do in Murabaha, sell it to the customer on monthly basis. Of course, for a higher amount, and the bank makes profit of that. So ijara can be used for this kind of practice, and it can be done, for instance, for medical operation. It can be done for any other kind of services, for tuition, school tuitions for universities or other schools. The only thing is that we need to start from the beginning. We don't finance it in the middle, in a way that, okay, there is an operation that need to be done. And for this operation, you go to the Islamic bank before the operation, not after the operation. Once the operation is done, the amount will be medical operation I'm talking about. The amount will be a debt on the customer. So, and we cannot finance a debt. But before the operation is done, we can do it. You got the pro forma from the hospital that it costs so much. The bank will buy this service assigned to that patient. And that is, of course, permissible and can be done. In education, we buy the credit hours. We buy the credit hours from the university and sell them to the student or to the guardian of the student. So we can do that always. We can also create a credit card based on this kind of practice, and it may include also uh, purchases of goods, not only services. For instance, you can pay for hotel fees. You go travel to another city, you need a hotel. With this credit card, that is specially designed, that contains this concept that you buy first. The Islamic bank, the issuer of this credit card, authorizes you to buy on its behalf and then buy from the bank at a higher price payable at a later date. The only thing in this kind of credit card is we need to determine really the date of payment. Without determining the date of payment for each transaction or for each group of transactions, like for instance, whatever I buy on this credit card, whether services or goods, supplies, I may buy meat for my to cook at home, also on this credit card, or pay tuition for a course, or pay fees for car driving tuitions or car driving fees. Training. So for all these, I can use this kind of credit card based on this wakala, that I buy it first to the bank and buy it from the bank. The only thing that part of the agreement will be that it will be what you buy within this week or within this month or within a period of time should all be paid at a given time, like 3 months from now or at the end of the fourth month from now. Yes, we need to determine for all these transactions. At each time when you make the transaction, you need to determine the date of payment. This is kind of disadvantage of this kind of credit card, but it can be really functional and it can work. The another way, uh, yeah, this is credit card with wakala. Murabaha line of credit is a different kind of thing, similar to the credit card, really. But Murabaha line of credit is usually done with the customers that usually make more withdrawals from suppliers. Take a practical example. In one Islamic bank, for instance, it made agreement on Murabaha line of credit with Wakala to a customer who is an oil product distributor. This customer has several oil product trunks that he uses to transfer or to transfer oil products from the refinery to gas stations. So he need the refinery asked for cash payment, and gas stations will pay at the end of the week always. So he needs financing for this kind, and on daily basis he will get several trucks coming from the refinery going to distribute to the gas stations. So for each truck he needs payment. Then we allow him to make the contract on behalf of the bank with the refinery, and for each truck, you just notify the bank, and the bank will credit the account of the refinery for that amount. So you buy on behalf of the bank this oil product, gasoline and other oil product, and distribute them, and then you pay at a later date that the master agreement between us determines this mode of payment. That, for instance, you pay always after 30 days or after 60 days or whatever credit we give you. That is murabaha line of credit, and it is actually practiced as a solution. The credit card is another one. A fourth way could be musharaka or mudaraba line of credit. This works with corporations, with banks. It doesn't work with government. Even, I mean, it can work with government independent economic corporations, though owned by the government, but they are economic corporations. The idea of this musharaka or mudaraba line of credit is exactly like the example I mentioned earlier. An Islamic bank needed an immediate cash amount to increase its reserve requirement that relates to all its business. It's not a specific transactions that it can make it on a direct deal with another bank. So if the Islamic bank had already arrangement with another bank that when we need funding, you give us some funding on musharaka or mudaraba basis, and we know all it needs here is we need to have our accounting system in a way that, and this is available anyway, that creates position on daily basis. Banks, all banks today have complete position and final balance sheet on daily basis. At the end of each day, we know what is the equity of the bank, what is the liability of the bank, what are the assets of the bank. So we have a full balance sheet daily calculated. So when you have that accounting facility, which exists anyway, you can make a master agreement, say with another bank, that if we need cash suddenly, we ask you to give us cash. And as in the example, for instance, we take cash, and when we take cash on musharaka or mudaraba basis, we are using the cash for all our business. And our business, definitely part of it, is to increase the reserve requirement in the central bank that affects all our business. So it is part of the equity, like we get an equity from the other bank. And since we know what we take from this other bank, and we deal with it on a master agreement that we can withdraw fund from the other bank or return fund to the other bank at any time on any day during the whole year. And at the end of the year, we calculate profit for both parties. We calculate our profit by our equity since the first day of of this agreement until the day we make our closing accounts and want to distribute profit, calculate and distribute profit. We calculate the our equity for the suppose the accounting year for us is a year. Accounting period is a full year. So we take our equity multiplied by 365 days, and we calculate how much we withdraw and how much we returned for each time whenever we withdraw or return to the other bank. and or of course plus minus, multiplied each transaction by the number of days until the end of the accounting period. We calculate that the dollar day of both our equity and the funds of other banks, the proportion of these dollar days will be the basis for calculating the profit distribution. So we distribute profit according to the equity contribution for both parties, and that is so easy. If it is musharaka, whatever the basis of musharaka, of course, in mudaraba, we take a share for management and distribute the remainder according to equity participation. So the way is simple. All it needs is an accounting system and a master agreement to take and give, withdraw from the other bank and deposit in the other bank throughout the accounting period without any real limitation. So here is musharaka and mudaraba line of credit. So with any of these four ways, we can avoid what is called the haram in personal finance and respond to, I should say, 95% of the needs for cash. Definitely all corporate needs, and definitely all government needs, and definitely also all banks needs, Islamic banks needs for cash. We can respond. For individuals, the only prerequisite for applying any of these ways is to start the transaction from the beginning, not after it creates a debt on the customer. Once a debt is created on the customer, that debt cannot be financed through any profit-making way of financing, because debt can only be transferred at its face value, nothing else. So Islamic banks will not buy these debts because they are there to make profit, and they wouldn't buy the debt for its face value. You have to come to the Islamic bank for personal finance before a debt is created, not after a debt is created. This is quite possible in banks, in Islamic banks especially, and in corporations that want to abide by Sharia, and also in government owned corporations, or in government per se. Ministry of Finance may need cash. It can be handled in one of these ways, but the only thing for individuals, you have to do it before a debt is created. So these are alternatives of personal finance that are Sharia compliant. And definitely, I should mention to you guys that these methodologies were really not known before the mid 90s. Nobody thought of them before the mid 90s. And in the mid 90s, remember, that was more than 20 years after the creation of Islamic banks and their spread in many places in the world. So, but anyway, thanks God they were invented anyway, and they make good alternatives of personal finance. We go to the second section here, which is contract for project and infrastructure finance. Now, the idea of projects and infrastructure is that here we are talking about a huge amount of finance, and also finance that should be made available as facility that is used at different times of the execution, because we don't need all the money at one step. We need it as the construction or the building of the infrastructure as it goes. So we need it step by step. And these steps usually are known in advance, but not really exactly. There may be all the time some sudden changes and some changes in it. So these are structured to be flexible, to be responding to this kind of transactions. We will look at what is called as BOT, output revenue sharing, corporate murabaha line of credit, which I mentioned exactly in the example of the company that distribute oil product for gas stations. We have reversed murabaha, and we'll look at it. And we have musharaka overdraft finance. Musharaka overdraft is exactly musharaka line of credit. And of course, we have istisna finance to government especially. So we'll discuss quickly these. Of course, lease purchase has already been discussed. We don't need to repeat it. And the lease purchase lease back is also permissible in Sharia, as long as it is not combined with lease buyback. Lease back alone is okay. And financial istisna, which is like three-party, two istisna, one between the Islamic bank and the construction company, and the other between the Islamic bank and the customer. And these two istisna will be connected together by appointing the customer as agent of the bank to receive the construction from the construction company for, say, house construction or factory or anything like that. So let's discuss these four or five or even six format of contracts or of relationships together quickly. BOT, that's build, operate, and transfer. Now, build, operate, and transfer works as follows. We have an idea of a project. We need to build, for instance, a chocolate factory. I was involved in building a chocolate factory in New York on that basis. Build, operate, and transfer. We find a company that is smart and has good experience in chocolate production. So we agree with this company. We have the idea of it. We have the infrastructure of it, like say the building or the ground that we need to build it, or the building we have it. We need to fill it with the machines and so on. So we want to make it. So it is. We make an agreement with this company that it will build and finance the building, buy the machines, operate the factory for a number of years, say 15 years, for instance, or 20 years, and get all that is related to it during this period. And then at the end of that time, that is the meaning of transfer. At the end of that 15 years, it will transfer the factory ready, complete, producing and running in a good way to the original owner. So I am the owner of the land. It made the construction and the machines and the operation and everything. Or I am the owner of the land and building, and it filled it with the machines, etc., and it operates it for that period. Now, build, operate, and transfer, I benefit from two things together: the financing and the know-how. Because the know-how from this company, it will make it operational, and I'll take it after 15 years operating and having its own customers, its own suppliers, and everything is in place. That is, I kind of hit two birds with one stone. I achieved these two objectives together, and this is why the BOT is used a lot. Now, what is the Sharia base of this BOT? On what basis? Okay, the Sharia base of it is, I am giving this company, the chocolate company here, my land or my land and building, and it puts machines, it puts experience, it gets supplies and so on, and fill the inventory and make the production lines and everything, and it puts all that. For 15 years, at the end of 15 years, it will give me these without any payment, of course. But that will be really what it gives me at the end of the 15 years is the rent of the 15 years of my original property. Say my property was a flat land, and it built the construction, filled the machine in and the production line, etc. And when I got at the end of the 15 years, I got all this will be transferred to my ownership. uh, that will be in compensation as the rent of my land for the 15 years. So the rent is paid like not in advance, but at the end. It gives it to me, it transfers to me. From the beginning, I authorize this company to build on my land, of course, and I authorize it to keep its properties on the land for 15 years. And at the end of the 15 years, it will transfer it to me as the rent for my property for that period. So that it has a good Sharia base, really. Okay, and this is the way it works. An Islamic bank may enter as an agent also in financing, partner with the company, and then it build it with these different step. Notice step one, and here we are assuming government. So the government want to build this on build, operate, and transfer with the finance from the Islamic bank. And along with the Islamic bank, there is a construction agent that works also for construction. So the bank will provide the financing. We'll have with the government a BOT agreement, and the government will surrender this land, say, to the bank as step number one. And then the already assigned agent will make the construction and operation for that period, expertise, say, in running this kind of factory. That will be the construction agent. Then they will build and operate that project and collect its revenue. Of course, the agent will be paid by the Islamic bank. The flow of finance, that's step number three, flow of finance for construction, and that includes the profit of the construction company. And then the revenue will come to the bank, being the owner of it. Of course, there is an agency fees that is paid to the operator operator of during these years. And at the end of the period, it will be handed from the Islamic Bank to the government, and the government becomes the owner of this. Do we need an exit? No, the exit is already built in. So the financing during this period is coming with the profit of it to the Islamic Bank, and the construction and operator agent gets its fees also regularly, or as per the agreement in step number 3. And at the end of the period of the BOT, the government gets the project complete and operating already. So the second one, output revenue or revenue sharing. Output sharing, you remember when we studied Muzara'a, we noticed that in Muzara'a, we distribute total output, not the net profit. This is unlike musharaka or mudaraba, where we distribute only net profit. Distribution of net profit means, as it is stated in fiqh books, in classical fiqh books, they call it after securing the principal. That is, once the principal is recovered, what is above the principal, that is the net profit. So definitely in Mudaraba and Musharaka, we only distribute net profit. But in Muzara'a, we don't worry about a principal, because theoretically the principal is the fixed asset, the land. And along with the land, there may be some machines and whatnot. And also raw materials that we put in zira'a. Notice we really don't put raw material, because we throw, say, in the land seeds, and we put pesticides, and we put fertilizers, and also labor. These inputs, if nothing comes out, it happened to be very dry season and no rain and no water and no nothing, so nothing came out. In fact, all these seeds and pesticides and fertilizers and the labor that was associated with them went in vain, went nothing, as nothing. So this is really, in a sense, in zira'a, in agriculture, when you plant the seed, you don't know what will happen. You are wasting them, in a sense. You are like throwing them away. Then a product may come or may not come. God knows. So this is the essence of muzara'a. And similar to it, when a fisherman got his boat and his net and even all the bait that he gets to feed the fish. If no fish, if he comes back in the evening with no fish, he had wasted all that time, and all the bait that he used. They ate it without being able to catch them, and so he comes back with nothing. Same thing. So this is where what matters here is the total output, not really the net profit. Can we use this concept outside Muzara'a? Like, for instance, if the government wants to build a big bridge on the Bosphorus, here is about 150 meter bridge, and we want to build it and finance it by investors. Can we make the agreement with the investors that you take part of or a percentage of the total toll we collect on this bridge? It may happen that in one day, not a single car may pass through it. Suppose there was riot and the bridge was closed, so the revenue was zero for that day. Or it may happen that many cars will cross and each car will pay its fees and the amount will be handsome. So this is the nature of distributing output or total revenue instead of distributing the net profit. Of course, if the operating expenses were or the operating corporation was not efficient enough to save on expenses of operation, the expenses of the operation may exhaust all revenue. So there may not be net profit, but definitely it is much less reasonable to think that revenue could be zero. Total revenue cannot be zero in any normal kind of business. But net profit may be zero or maybe even negative because of the efficiency of operation. So here it's better for the investor when they financing a property against a share of its revenue. They finance the construction of the bridge against 20% of the total toll revenue that is collected on the bridge. Now, the bridge definitely will require maintenance, will require operation expenses, collection of tolls, and so on. But all that are not relevant to the profit distribution. The profit for the investor, the return is only a percentage of the total gross revenue. And that makes it with less headache and less intervention in the operation and less also kind of management headache. We don't need to go into all these. So this is the point here. Okay, financing, it's based on providing fixed asset. So we need the investors to own, say, a consortium of 3 Islamic banks. They come and finance the construction of the bridge. They own the bridge, and they share with the government, because the government owns the space on which the bridge is built. They share revenue with the government, and the government operates it also. Still, the Ministry of Transportation or the Department of Bridges operate that bridge. Because it needs some law enforcement for people to cross it paying tolls. So here the principle is similar to Muzara'a, and it is permissible in Sharia. How it operates, we have a project here. Say the project owner, be it the government, for instance, we share output with it, and will be financed, say, by the Islamic Bank or by a consortium of Islamic banks. But of course, here the investor will take part of the revenue, but what will happen to the ownership of the property after 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or whatnot? As long as we operated in this manner, ownership remains in the hands of the investors, and nothing will happen, and we will continue distributing the total revenue until the end of life. Would the government like to keep that, or the government like to own the bridge after a period of time? Of course, normally the government would like to own the bridge after a period of time. And in this case, it will assign part of its revenue. Suppose the agreement is that the Islamic Bank, the investor, which becomes the owner of the construction, of course, will take 20% of the gross revenue. The government will take 80%. The operation of the bridge consumes, say, another 15%. So the 45% total, or 55% total, becomes the government revenue, net revenue. It can assign part of this to purchase part of the bridge regularly over time. So over a period of time, by assigning part of the revenue of the owner in this revenue sharing principle, by assigning part of the revenue of the owner of the land, it can become assigning it to purchase part of the construction of the bridge. It becomes then the ownership will be transferred to the government at the end of the period. And it can be arranged, of course, by like assigning, instead of taking 20% revenue, you take 50% revenue, and 30% of it will always be assigned toward purchasing the property itself, the bridge, which is the cost of construction of the bridge. This can also apply to highways, and it is really applied to highways in several countries. In Nigeria, for instance, I contributed myself to supervising the Sharia aspect of it. We created a way of financing highways in Nigeria, construction of highways on the same principle of revenue sharing. So assigning part of the gross revenue to the investors. And it works, and some of these have already been and even recovered. Payment was done to investors and projects completed. So we take the next one. What happened here? Yeah, I think this is the last thing that we have. Wait a minute, do we have any? Yeah. So we why it went that way. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is our last slide here. Since we have time, I think we can go and look at the principles of the estate planning. Okay, so I'm going to end here in the show. And now what do we do here? How do we upload another one?
It's just the same way. You can just press on share and choose
Well,
the power.
I don't have the share. Oh yeah, share is there. Yeah. Okay,
in the
let's see.
title.
But I need to open it and make it close to me first. Let me get it out. Okay, so let's see here. And yeah. Do you see it now?
Yes, no, it's true.
Okay, so let me the right thing here. طيب. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This session deals with the estate planning and inheritance system. I think it is also its importance to you, especially guys, is because it applies to us Muslims who live in the West. Now, most of you are students, but many of us start student and stay and continue to be citizens living under the uh, non-Islamic law of inheritance and a non-Islamic methodology of estate planning. Now, of course, yani we'll go into that without here. We need to learn about the Sharia aspect of estate planning. It's part of the Islamic distribution system and Islamic way of life. It is essential for the wealth distribution in the Islamic system. We need to look at it really to appreciate the connectivity that exists, especially between the different aspects of the Islamic law, family law, relationships within the family, inheritance, property law, ownership concept. All these are related to the inheritance system and to estate planning, and they are يعني, connected really one with the other in a close way. And to understand the documents that are needed in countries like United States or Canada, where we live and where يعني we may be exposed to dealing with the laws there in a way that does not violate our Sharia. Okay, estate planning is a set of arrangement through which a person decides how owned assets, properties by that person will be preserved, used, and by whom uh, will be used or preserved, and how will they be managed after the person dies. So this is the idea of it. And we will look as we go through it, we'll look how it is arranged between يعني, in the Islamic system and in the Anglo-Saxon, which is really a Roman heritage system. Estate planning is very useful, especially for us who live in the West and are different laws that are not consistent with the Sharia in this aspect. Most laws in the Muslim countries are Sharia consistent. I should say in Muslim countries, including Malaysia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Iran, Arab countries, all of them except Tunis, and of course, Indonesia and Malaysia do not adopt the Islamic law of family and inheritance. So they fall into many contradictions because of that also. Because their population are Muslims majority, and they want Islamic laws, and they find themselves in not dealing with it. Uh, Estate planning prevents unwanted inheritors. It may reduce the estate tax. It helps protect minors, or when there are heirs who are minors. It helps avoid probate, and usually probate court is costly and requires usually to have some lawyers also, of course, paid for. And it exposes also the information in public, because it has to make some public announcement about its proceedings. It helps avoid family dispute, because it will set things directly correct from the beginning. It may restrict abuse of the estate, and it fulfills philanthropic goals if one has any philanthropic goals. And we'll look at it, how it is in Sharia and how it is also in the American and Anglo-Saxon laws. And it gives, of course, mental peace. Okay. In Sharia, now, when we talk about the inheritance system in Islam, the inheritance system is given in the Quran. And if you notice at the end of each of the verses that relate to inheritance, we will find a statement, like, for instance, here at the end of the verse number 11 of Surah number 4, it says, "These are settled portions ordained by God. Faridatan min Allah." These are faridatan min Allah. And God is all knowing, all wise. So these are settled portions ordained by God. In the other verse, the first verse here, it says really an important thing, and that was historically very important, that at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Arabs had a custom of not giving any part of the estate to their females. They give it only to the males. That was the practice in the Arabia at that time. And the verse came, number 7 in Surah number 4, to say, well, that is wrong. Both men and women will have shares in the estate. Females and males will have shares in the estate. And that share is already determined. You see, it's a determined share, and of course, determined by God, not by anybody else. Notice in verse number 12 that talks about distribution. What will happen if someone dies? Inheritance between husband and wife, how they inherit, and so on. If there are children, no children, if there are siblings, no siblings, and whatnot, all that, it goes on. But what is important, look at the phrase at the end of the verse. It says, "This, thus it is ordained by God, and God is all knowing, most forbearing. Thus, it is ordained by God. وصية من الله. والله عليم حليم. The verse number 13, which comes after the main two verses that talk about inheritance, distribution of estate. Look what does it read. Those are not really limits. The word limit is incorrect translation. It is those are terms set by God. Those are hudud means terms, not limits, really. Limit, when you talk about geographical hudud, that is limit. But hudud means the terms given by God. Let me correct it, please. Now it should be really corrected. Where is it here? These are terms. Okay, these are terms said by God. Those who obey God and his apostle will be admitted to the gardens and with rivers flowing beneath to abide therein forever, and that will be the supreme uh, and that will be the supreme achievement. But those who disobey God and his apostle uh, and transgress his terms, again, not limit, and transgress his terms, will be admitted to fire and abide therein, and they shall have a humiliating punishment. Now, notice here, whenever in the Quran that says a thing is punished by hellfire, that means this thing is obligatory. And a thing that is rewarded by the garden, Jannah, uh, that means this is required, but it may not necessarily be obligatory. This is why the second verse comes to declare that it is really obligatory. Don't understand it as recommended only. It is rather obligatory. And notice these are verses 13 and 14 that come exactly after verse 11 and 12 of Surah number 4 that detail the inheritance system. Verse 11, and this is verse 12. And then 13 and 14 comes to declare it. There is another verse anyway, but we are not going to spend much of time on it. At the end of Surah number 4, again, another verse uh, talks about a special case when a person dies, leaving sibling only, no children, and no parents or ascendant, no ascendant and no descendant. Only sibling, how it is distributed. But that's not really, we are not going to dwell on that. Let's come to the details then of the system. The inheritance system in Islam is characterized by one, it reflects the Islamic concept of ownership. You control what is ownership in Islam is really a gift from God, not from the society, from God, because God is the owner of everything. You own it, you are the owner. We call you owner, definitely, and the Quran calls you owner by what God gave you, but you are owner as long as you are alive. When you die, the property goes to its original owner, God. It's not no more you. In other words, you have no control after death. The control after death goes back to God, not to you. And He distributes it, not you. It's not you who give it, it is God. The details of the inheritance system is given by God also. Almost there is no ijtihad at all in this issue. Yani we have the inheritance system is really all by God. Yani they usually mention one case of ijtihad when a person died leaving uh, a full brother and say the deceased is a wife, and she leaves her husband and one full brother and two mother side siblings, and also she leaves, say, a mother. So the mother will take 1/6. The two mother side siblings will take 1/3. The husband will take 1/2. So all that's total of 1%. All the estate is distributed to all these heirs, and the full brother gets 0 because the full brother, the share of the full brother is the remainder. This is a case of ijtihad only. I don't remember any other case of ijtihad. Probably this is the only one. And the ijtihad came from Umar ibn al-Khattab. At his time, it happened, that case happened. It's very rare to happen, this case, but it happened at the time of Umar. So that man, the full brother, came to Umar and told him, well, I am full brother and I got nothing, whereas the mother side brothers, say, or siblings, the two of them got each one of them 1/6, and I got nothing. Don't we have the same mother, all of us? Consider me a mother side also. I am full brother, but I am also a mother side brother. So consider me a mother side brother, and let me share this 1/3 with them instead of the both of them taking everything and I take nothing. So Umar ibn al-Khattab accepted that argument and told him, okay, yeah, you are also a mother side brother. Although you are full brother, but you are also a mother side brother. So we make this share of the mother sides distributed by the three of you together. So this is the case of ijtihad. There is no ijtihad in this issue. It's only the text of the Quran, really, essentially. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, uh, يعني, the Quran talks about a special wasiyah that we will talk about it later. And the Prophet said that you cannot make a wasiyah for more than 1/3 maximum. And here, the Quran says that the distribution in these verses that we passed now, and looked at least on the screen, verses 11 and 12. In each distribution, it says, after fulfilling the wasiyah, the last will. Uh, so the Prophet said that the last will should not exceed 1/3. And the objective of it, that okay, if the wasiyah exceeds 1/3, it will be really a violation of these verses, because it will make kind of a change in these terms, like يعني upsetting these terms. It's okay, you take wasiyah, You make wasiya to have an opportunity to make some special things that are dear to you, or special things that are that give you final kind of rewards at the last moment, like last moment reward from God. This is the objective of wasiya. But uh, the wasiya shouldn't really be too big for the property. Otherwise, you will be violating the verse 13 and 14 that says, "These are the terms of God, and you should obey them." By the wasiya, you will upset these terms completely. And this is why the wasiya is limited to a relatively not a big amount, no more than a third. And in fact, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu interpret this idea of wasiya in a way that is consistent with the principle of ownership, that you own it while you are alive, you have no control after death. So Abu Bakr said that the wasiya is really a gift from God. God gave you a gift to make final decision of goodness for any good objective. Uh, and he gave you a gift of one third that you can use it for this wasiya and fulfill that good objective that you want at the end of the life. But it shouldn't be really big. And again, the Prophet ﷺ, in explaining verse 13 and 14, said that you should not make a wasiyah to an heir, because a wasiyah to an heir disturbs these terms, and you should not violate these terms. You should not disturb these terms. The terms should be fulfilled as they are. So you cannot make a wasiyah to an heir also. So this is again only explanation of verse 13 and 14, not really an addition from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So practically, it is all given in the Quran. One, then, its characteristics. It fulfills the concept of ownership. You are really not a full owner. You are owner only while you are alive. You cannot have a control after death. It is detailed from God. It recognizes independent ownership of male, female, husband, wife, minor, adult. Each one, whether the heir is the potential heir is a minor or an adult, has own share as given in the Quran. Male or female have independent owners. There's no community ownership in Islam, in fact, between husband and wife, unless you make it by your own choice. Your own choice means that you create a partnership any way you like. But marriage in Islam is a civil contract that does not include partnership in ownership. This invention of community ownership that exists in most states of the United States, and I don't know whether it exists in Canada or not, is an invention and has no base really in the human mind or in our religion. And our religion is most consistent with the human nature and the human fitra, the nature of a human being. Each one own what he or she owns alone. Now, you may make a choice otherwise, and this is a choice that you make. For instance, when I bought my house in California, we made the choice. I made the choice. I paid for it. I made the choice clearly that I want to make it owned half by me and my wife. So we put our two names together on the basis of half. And that is a choice that we make. My wife was working for 6, 7 years or more, maybe 10 years. And she used to use her income again for our household expenses. and my income used to go to the bank. uh, and we used her income really for all this period. She never said anything otherwise, that, oh no, she want it to be her own. It was her own and her own choice that she gave it. So it is a choice that we make, not a law that comes from outside. The law should be really naturally each one owns what he or she owns, male or female, husband or wife, brother or sister, and all that. Unless you make a choice otherwise. So this concept of community ownership is not acceptable. Uh, Again, the Islamic inheritance system is mandatory, it's obligatory, it's God given right. It is not from you to your heirs, it's from God to your heirs. And God selected your closest persons, the closest persons to the deceased, to give him this property. That is part of his mercy, subhanahu wa ta'ala. It clearly aims at distribution of the wealth, diffusion of the wealth in different persons, not focusing it to one. For instance, the law in England used to be that the first child gets everything, and other children get zero. They become poor, really. A father may be very rich, the first child will get everything, all the property, and the other children will go to hell, will get nothing. And this is what Malthus, the writer, the optimistic writer, who calls for wars and natural disasters to reduce population of the world. He was a second child and he had nothing, so he went to church to be fed, and the church in UK fed him, and he became a priest later in that church, and he became this pessimistic writer on the theory of population, which was really nothing, and history proved otherwise. Number of human beings on the earth have increased a lot since his time. His time was in the first half of the 1800. And the level of living has improved again everywhere in the world with the increase of population. This is against his claims. Anyway, so here we aim, the system aims at redistribution of wealth, not concentrating it. And it is integrated with the other Islamic systems of family and of marriage and of family responsibility, and also of property, of family, of marriage. For instance, in marriage, there is independence of ownership between husband and wife. This is why there is a mahar that is obligatory. An obligatory gift must be given at the time of marriage from the husband to the wife. Again, and she owns it, and they don't share the ownership. The husband is responsible for all expenses of the family, and she is not, unless she voluntarily contribute to family expenses. She is not required to do that at all, including her personal expenses. Uh, Again, with family solidarity, that in family there is always a male who is responsible for the nearest female expenses. The female expenses nearest to him, the responsibility for their expenses fall on the closest male. Husband for wife, husband for children, female children, sibling, brothers for sisters. Always they are responsible for children, for their mother, and also father. They are responsible, and those are the ones who get the estate also. يعني the estate is distributed within the family, and these family members, in case of need, will be responsible for each other. So this is basically the ideas here. Uh, Now, the Islamic inheritance system distribute the estate into two kinds of potential heirs. One kind that get assigned shares given in the Quran. Like, for instance, the Quran says, if a husband dies, the wife takes one half of the estate if he doesn't have children. She takes one fourth of the estate if she has children. Sorry, she takes one fourth of the estate if there are no children, and 1/8 of the estate if there are children. If the wife dies, husband takes one half of the estate if there are no children, and one fourth if there are children. These are given shares. If someone dies, leaving a father or mother or both, each one of them takes 1/6 of the estate all the time, whether there are children or there are no children. 1/6 always is guaranteed as minimum for the parents, has male or female, and they are equal. Sometimes they are not equal. For instance, if someone dies leaving no children but leaving two parents, father and mother, and suppose there are no siblings. If there are no siblings, the father takes twice as much as the mother. She takes 1/3, and the father takes the 2/3. But if there are siblings, then the mother takes 1/6, and the father takes 5/6. This is in consideration of his expenses for the siblings, clearly, for his responsibilities. So it relates to that. Anyway, so the system is the inheritance system in Islam is there are share recipients and there are remainders recipients. The remainder recipients are children, brother and sisters if there are no children, father if there are no children again. Otherwise, father and mother will have, if there are children, will be share recipients. Each one of them will receive 1/6. Children will receive the remainder all the time. Husband and wife are always shareholders from each other. They don't take the remainder. Remainder is only to children and to father, not to others. Okay. Or, I mean, also to siblings if there are no parents and no children. So these are the characteristics. The residuaries, the meaning those who take the remainder, which I mentioned them anyway. Children, father if there are no children, and siblings if there are no children, and parents. Uh, the Islamic law of inheritance is essentially derived from the Quran itself. It is extremely small number of issues that came in outside from Sunnah or other ijtihad. There is no ijtihad in it practically almost at all. It is lineage based. I don't shy at all from saying clearly that generally speaking, it gives 2 shares to the male. This is number 7 here. Share of male is twice as much as a share of a female. There are certain cases, usually in practical life, rare, but they exist. Some of them exist more than others, of course. Usually, people die leaving children, but when they don't leave children, they leave parents, or they leave children with parents, or they leave spouses with parents, with children, or without. So these are the general cases. There are cases, of course, when they don't leave children but leave only siblings, and some of these siblings are mother side. That's a case that exists, yes, but it's not so common case. Most cases are fall under share of male is twice as much as the female. Among children, the share of the son is twice as much the share of a daughter. Among brothers and sisters, the share of a brother is twice as much as the share of the mother. Between husband and wife, again, if the wife dies, the share of the husband will be half or one fourth. If the husband dies, the share of the wife will be either one fourth or one eighth, and which is twice really. The male is twice as much as female. When someone dies leaving only parents, say without children, the father takes two-thirds, the mother takes one-third. So again, twice as much to the male as to the female. There are some cases where um, sibling from mother side are equal. Yes. Grandfather, of course, if there is no father, grandfather, father of father is equal to mother of father or mother of mother. They are equal. Here, male is equal to the female. Father and mother, if there are children, are also equal. Each one will take one sixth. So there are cases of equal between them. And there is one case of five times 5/6, or 5-1 relationship, 5/6 to 1/6 between father and mother if someone dies leaving siblings. So يعني, this is what God made, and this is obligatory from God. So we need not to be really apologetic about it. Yes, we clearly say it, and that is clearly related also to the marriage contract, because the husband is required to pay at the time of marriage to the wife, increase her ownership and decrease his ownership, and that is natural in the Islamic system. He is required to spend on the family. She is not required at all. And whatever she does is voluntary, or if she has the right to make it as a loan. And if my wife, when she was spending on the family for about 10 years, and my money was going to the bank accumulating my income, I had income and she had income. If she decided at that time to say, "Oh, this is a loan to you. What is spent? This is a loan to you." Yes, it can be, because she's not required to spend any penny on the family. But if she does it voluntarily, that's well and good. So there is nothing really. يعني, our properties is independent one from the other. Okay. Uh, so this is basically the characteristic. Now this here, we will close probably with this here. I made this schedule, which is similar exactly يعني, to a list of inheritance. It's a full schedule. You find it on the internet. It's called the Schedule of Mawarith, the Islamic distribution of the estate. Uh, and this schedule has 9 different cases. Case number one son or more, and any number of daughters. So look at at it, how it is distributed. Uh, the first column gives who are the surviving heirs. Second column is share of the remainder. The remainder is defined below in the instruction of this schedule, is defined after paying all expenses and paying all, if there is any special wasiya, last will. And then uh, column number 3 distribute to what is the share to surviving, count who are the surviving heirs. And the last column determines what is the share. The objective of this schedule is about 25 pages. It has 9 separate cases. Each case has ABC as partial cases. Like here, someone dies with no other relatives. He leaves or she leaves one son or more and any number of daughters. He or they, the survivors, say the share of remainder, will get all remainders such that sons are equal in their class, daughters are equal in their class, and for the daughter, half of a son's share. The second, oh, sorry, this is a second page that is made on the other side. Sorry, it's 2 column. Okay, it's a second page is given on the other column, just like more explanation, more cases. Okay, now if there are no other children other than one son or more and one any number of daughters. This is the way it is distributed. If there is with a wife or husband, 1/8 to the wife, rest as in 1A, or 1/4 to the husband, rest as in 1A. So we take 1A, here is 1B. It's the same 1A with wife or husband. The deceased left a wife and husband and along with one son or more. Then case number 2 will say uh, only daughters, no sons. And then it goes how it is distributed with different other potentialities and so on. The objective of this schedule is for us in United States and Canada, especially. This schedule, the first draft of it was done in 1976. I made it as when I was officer of the Organization of Muslim Student Association of the United States and Canada, that came later as part of ISNA, Islamic Society of North America, US, and Islamic Society of North America, Canada. At the beginning, we were one association, and then because of legal issues, we separated Canada alone and US alone. But we are like brothers or sisters organizations. I made this schedule for a person that if it goes to a court, you don't allow the judge to make any personal judgment or any legal judgment on this issue. The only thing that the judge will be, or the court, the probate court, or any dispute court will do, is to look what is the case. Is the case number 1B or 1C or 1H, 1C1, for instance, or 1C2, 1C1. Okay, it is 1C1 is the case of 1C and with one parent, that is, uh, and 1C is uh, leaving uh, one son or more with a number of children. 1C is with father and mother. Each of the parents will take 1/6. The one parent will take 1/6 remainder as in A, in 1A. Look at C2, 1C2, with any possible combination of 1B, 1C, and 1CA. Spouse and parents take shares mentioned above. Whatever the case is, spouse will take, if the deceased is husband, then the wife will take 1/8. Uh, Parents, again, each parent will take 1/6 remainder to children as in 1A. So 1C2 gives all kind of combination of all the what is above it. And here we do not give the judge any room to make a personal opinion or to make any judgment of his own, other than looking at what line is the line that applies on that case. So this is the objective of this schedule, and it was done really to make it clear. For instance, if you take in case number 2, someone left one daughter alone, no other heirs. What does she take? The daughter will take, the Quran says, will take 1/2, but the Quran says also later the remainder will be rendered to her if there are no other shares, no other heirs. So in this schedule, when you look at it on the internet, you will find that in this case, which is case 1, 2, uh, daughters alone with no sons and no sons of sons, the daughters will take, if one daughter will take all the property, or if or all the estate, and if more than one daughter, the estate will be distributed between them equally. But here all the estate, we say, we don't make judgment that, oh, it takes 1/2 as her share in the as mentioned in the Quran, and the other half is rendered to her as mentioned in the Quran. We say it clearly from the beginning, she takes the whole thing. So we don't leave any room for personal judgment or personal discussion by the court of probate. We don't give it any authority, in other words. So it has to distribute the Sharia as it is. What is fortunate is important to notice. These are part just taken of the schedule until case number 2. Number 8, see here, case number 2, number 3, we gave some examples, and case number 4, parents, parents alone, no children and no children of children, of sons. Case number 5, husband or wife, and no children and no others, no parents. Case number 6, siblings, no spouse, no children, no children of sons, and no parents. Case number 7, children of daughters or children of daughters. Case number 8, uh, simultaneous death, more than one wife case. Some people are married to more than one wife. Is permissible in Sharia. There are circumstances that may require that, and and the law is wrong that prevents the plume marriage. In fact, there are circumstances where plume marriage is definitely a lot better than any other alternative. And I argue for that in a different setting. I have a paper on that matter. Anyway, you will find it on my on the internet. So the idea here that there are special cases that need to be discussed, and we don't allow the court to make any opinion, to make its own opinion on the issue. Uh, so let's go to the issue of wasiya and conclude with that. Or take like here case of wife spending and full-time housewife. يعني definitely full-time housewives, in the Islamic marriage contract, home service is not part of the contract. So in other words, and this should be clear really in our mind, a wife is not required to service the household. She is not even required to nurse her child. When she gives birth to her own child, she is not required to nurse it by the law. But she does out of her own motherhood feeling. And she can even ask for payment for that. If the husband, if there is difference between the wife and husband on this matter, she can ask for payment for it, and this is clearly in the text of the Quran. It's mentioned. So she is not required to make any service at home at all, cooking, cleaning, taking care of the household. That's not her responsibility. This is a common responsibility of husband and wife together. They are required to do that for their own benefit and their own services, and each one should serve himself and be able to serve himself. So the issue of service being part of the job of the housewife is not. But there are many housewives who select to be full-time housewife. Can this be recognized? Yes, it can be recognized. We can make several procedures for recognizing this. If husband and wife work in business together, they share a business, and that may happen many times. It happened at the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, that a woman, the woman was weaving the wool at home, and the husband was selling it in his shop. And they were working together in this business. So when he died, they didn't have any children. His brothers came to take all the estate, but the wife told Umar that, well, I was his partner. How come they take everything? So Umar ibn al-Khattab made it clear that she owns half of the business, half of the business is hers, and then the remainder will be distributed to her and to his brothers, as in the Quran. So partnership is recognized, in other words, in those cases. So we can recognize that, yes. The issue of wasiya is interesting in Islam. Okay. Last will, in brief, I'll make it last will in Islam, and we call it wasiya, which means last will really. One, it's a privilege given by God. It's not really a right of the person to make it. But if the person decides to make it for any good reason, that is okay. This is one. Two, it should not exceed one third, in order not to really be heavy on the distribution of the estate. So shouldn't violate, in other words, the principle of the estate distribution that are mentioned in verses 11 and 12, especially in Surah number 4. And three, it should be for good reason. Uh, Good reason means to make something that is of benefit to the society, to you, to any person, to any human being who needs help. You have a neighbor who is poor, you may make part of that estate to him or anything, or to her, or any other good reason. You have, for instance, some cousins that, of course, they don't inherit anything because you have children, and they don't get anything from your inheritance. But these cousins are in some kind of need, so you assign part of that estate to them. All these good objectives, that's the idea of it. And it is kind of grant from God, gave it to you to do this final good thing in the final, at the end of one's life. Do good, and so you have يعني, really a heritage of good thing. That's the idea of it. Whereas the idea of the Roman law, which is inherited in the Anglo-Saxon laws, that the wasiya, you can do anything with it. It covers all your property, all your estate, and you can do any condition and anything in it. That's not the way. You can make it to one of the potential heirs and prevent the other potential heirs. You cannot do that in Islam. You can leave it to all of it to an objective, good objective, to the Heart Association of Canada, for instance, but and leave your children with nothing. That you cannot do in Islam at all. Of course, you can give in your life while alive. You can do whatever you like with your property, and then when you die, you leave nothing. That's your choice. That is okay, because you are free to do whatever you like while you are alive. But that is not wasiyah. In the time of wasiyah, you cannot do more than one third, and this one third is really like a gift from God. Otherwise, you should have been without any authority over the property after you die. Again, for instance, in wasiya, you cannot make any restriction on the future owners of your property. For instance, oh, don't give my daughter any her share unless she finishes her master's degree in the university, or don't give my son any share if he marries this girl whom I don't like. You have no right, really. All such conditions are mean nothing. They are not implementable unless they decide to abide by them, to respect your will. But otherwise, these such conditions are mean nothing in the Islamic wasiya. It's only up to them to fulfill them or not fulfill them. That's not yours. You cannot make that condition because it's no more your property. This is the concept of the Islamic wasiya and the concept of Islamic inheritance. I think with this we can close. And Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We still have one session. I don't know. If you like to make this session tomorrow, I can do it tomorrow.
I'm not sure if the students are going to be available on tomorrow, but maybe you can ask them.
Yeah, I need check if you can make a quick time, because now we don't know when the travel will be. Really, I can't really tell. I don't know when are we going to travel.
Okay, or maybe we can just like make it and record it, and the ones who cannot attend, they're just gonna watch the recording.
Yeah, could be that way also.
Okay. What time works for you, inshallah, tomorrow?
Well,
Same.
of course, if we make it in the morning, is difficult for you because we have now 7 hours difference, right? I mean, 8 o'clock will be excellent for me in the morning, but that means 1 o'clock for you, 1 a.m. for you there in Ottawa. Uh, well, let's set it for tomorrow evening, if you like, same time, 5 o'clock, or if better, 4 o'clock might be better. But يعني subject to my travel. If the war gave way a little for airlines to reactivate, I'll be flying. Otherwise, I'll be waiting until the flight is rescheduled.
Okay, inshallah, you can let
So
me know.
9 o'clock tomorrow morning, make it as a principle.
9 o'clock here or
No, 9 o'clock your time, 4 o'clock my
okay,
time.
okay, 9 o'clock
Four.
our time. Okay, yeah, inshallah.
Okay. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we'll make the last session. How many people know we have? Only two?
Yes, we had two, but now one of them left, and there is only one more student.
So
Me
you
and
are
so we're two.
okay. طيب خير إن شاء الله. يلا, we'll see you إن شاء الله tomorrow.
Thank you. جزاكم الله خير, Professor.
طيب بارك الله فيك. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.